Imagine for a moment you're standing at the edge of a vast desert, with the sun beating down relentlessly. As far as you can see, there's nothing but empty sand. You take a step, and the wind blows your footprints away, leaving no trace of your presence. You continue walking, but each step feels more and more pointless. This image captures the heart of Ecclesiastes, a book in the Bible that explores the futility of life under the sun, a phrase that echoes throughout its pages, symbolizing life in this world without God's perspective. The author of Ecclesiastes, traditionally believed to be Solomon, was the king of Israel, known for his unparalleled wisdom, wealth, and power. If anyone could figure out what makes life meaningful, surely it would be Solomon. And yet Ecclesiastes opens with these sobering words, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 2. In today's terms, we might say, it's all meaningless. The word vanity appears 37 times in the book, driving home the central theme: without God, everything in life is temporary, fleeting, and ultimately without purpose. But how could a man with all the riches and wisdom in the world arrive at such a bleak conclusion? Let's walk through his journey and discover how Ecclesiastes leads us from despair to hope, from emptiness to fullness. Ecclesiastes is a chronicle of Solomon's search for the meaning of life. He pursued everything imaginable to find satisfaction: wisdom, pleasure, work, wealth, and even philosophy. Yet, at every turn, his conclusion remained the same. Everything under the sun is vanity, like chasing after the wind. He tried to grasp it, but it slipped through his fingers every time. In chapter 1, Solomon dives headfirst into wisdom and knowledge. Surely, he thought, the more you know, the more satisfied you'll be. But instead, he discovered that with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 18. Have you ever noticed that sometimes, the more you learn, the more problems you uncover? It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, only to find that beneath each layer is another tear-inducing revelation. Next, Solomon turns to pleasure. He indulges in laughter, fine wine, lavish parties, and grand building projects. He spares no expense, building palaces and gardens that would put modern mansions to shame. Yet, at the end of it all, he says, "I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done, everything was meaningless. A chasing after the wind." Ecclesiastes, February 10th, 11. It's as if he's saying, I had it all, and it still wasn't enough. Solomon's quest also leads him to consider work and achievement. He labors intensely, hoping that his efforts will provide lasting significance. But even here he finds disappointment. What do people get for all the toil and anxious striving with which they labor under the sun? All their days their work is grief and pain. Even at night their minds do not rest. Ecclesiastes 2 verses 22, 23. How often have we experienced this ourselves, working tirelessly, only to feel burnt out and unfulfilled? We see a pattern emerging here. No matter how hard Solomon tries, he can't escape the nagging feeling that life is slipping through his hands. Wisdom, wealth, pleasure, work, none of it brings lasting satisfaction. It's like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Amidst the gloom of life under the sun, Solomon offers a glimmer of hope. In chapter 3, one of the most well-known passages in Ecclesiastes, he writes, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under heaven." Ecclesiastes 3:1. Here Solomon acknowledges the cyclical nature of life, birth and death, planting and uprooting, weeping and laughing. Yet in verse 11 he reveals something even more profound. God has set eternity in the human heart. This is the turning point of the book. It's as though Solomon is saying, yes, everything seems meaningless, but deep down we all sense that there's something more, that something more is eternity, a longing for the eternal that no earthly pursuit can satisfy. We were made for more than this world can offer. As C.S. Lewis once wrote, "If I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world." but Solomon lived almost 1,000 years before Christ revealed the full picture of eternity. While he sensed the eternal, he didn't yet know the Savior who would bring life and immortality to light. For Solomon, the future was still shrouded in mystery, but for us, as followers of Christ, the fog has lifted. Jesus has shown us that life extends beyond the grave, and that in him we find the answer to our deepest longings. Even though Solomon wrestled with the futility of life, he didn't leave us without practical wisdom for daily living. In fact, some of the most memorable teachings in Ecclesiastes deal with the everyday rhythms of life. Solomon encourages us to live in the moment, to enjoy the simple gifts of God, eating, drinking, and finding joy in our work. There is nothing better for a person than to eat, drink, and find satisfaction in their toil, Ecclesiastes 2:24. This might sound like he's advocating for a kind of hedonism, but that's not the case. Rather, Solomon is teaching us to embrace the blessings God gives us, while recognizing that they are temporary. He also reminds us that everything we do, even the small, seemingly insignificant moments, matters to God. Whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might, Ecclesiastes 9:10. Solomon isn't encouraging reckless ambition. Rather, he's calling us to live with purpose and diligence, knowing that our time on earth is limited. One of the most poetic and poignant passages in the book comes in chapter 12, where Solomon describes the process of aging in vivid detail. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come, and the years approach when you will say, I find no pleasure in them. Ecclesiastes 12:1. He likens old age to a house falling apart, with windows growing dim and doors closing. It's a sobering reminder that life is fragile, and our time here is short. After exploring every avenue of life under the sun, Solomon concludes with a simple but powerful statement. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Ecclesiastes 12:13. In other words, the key to a meaningful life isn't found in chasing wealth, pleasure, or success. It's found in revering God and living according to his ways. When Solomon says to fear God, he's not talking about living in terror. Instead, it's about holding God in awe and reverence, recognizing his authority and submitting to his will. It's about understanding that our lives have meaning only when we are connected to the one who made us. Ecclesiastes teaches us that life under the sun is fleeting, like a vapor that vanishes quickly. But when we look beyond the sun, beyond this temporary world, we discover that true meaning is found in God alone. As Solomon says, God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. Ecclesiastes 12:14. This is both a warning and a comfort, reminding us that God is just and that our lives matter to him. So where does that leave us? If Ecclesiastes teaches us anything, it's that chasing after the things of this world will always leave us empty. Wealth, pleasure, work, these aren't inherently bad, but when pursued apart from God, they become meaningless. But when we live with eternity in view, when we fear God and keep his commandments, even the mundane moments of life become infused with purpose. Life is no longer vanity, it's a journey towards something greater, something eternal. Solomon's wisdom calls us to lift our eyes from the temporary and fix them on the eternal. And as followers of Christ, we know that our search for meaning finds its ultimate fulfillment in him, who offers us not just life, but life to the full, John 10:10. So let us live each day in light of eternity, knowing that our work, our joy, and our very lives are in the hands of the one who holds all things together.